The first type of worry we're going to look at is what I like to call godly concern. Godly concern is the negative feeling we experience when something we value is threatened. Really, when something God values is threatened. As we manifest our love for God and as we manifest our love for others, we will be genuinely concerned for their welfare. Godly concern is the anxiousness, it's the fear we experience when our hearts are rightly related to God in worship and in trust, and rightly related to those around us in sacrificial love. In a fallen world where suffering is, unfortunately, the norm, we should expect to experience these kind of negative emotions. There are 5 trademarks that I think can help us identify the appropriate godly concern we experience. First, godly concern flows from a confident trust in God, not an insecure trust in ourselves. Godly concern flows most fundamentally from a heart that is centered on and captivated by God. And therefore, we feel concern for the things that concern Him. Secondly, godly concern stems from a desire for the glory of God, not just the preservation of ourselves. Jesus wrapped up his entire teaching on anxiety in Matthew 6 by exhorting his disciples to seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. Godly concern isn't consumed with self-preservation, but it flows forth from a controlling desire for the glory of God and the spread of His kingdom. Godly concern, it doesn't stand in the way of us losing our lives for the sake of Christ. In fact, godly concern motivates that kind of sacrifice. Third, godly concern seeks first the good of others over and above the good of ourselves. Like every other capacity God has given us, the greatest way we can utilize the instinct to fear, the instinct to be concerned is not to serve ourselves, it's not to protect ourselves, but to serve and love those around us, as we read about in Philippians 2. Godly concern longs to see the ultimate good of others brought about, even if it comes at the cost of significant personal sacrifice. It makes me think of 1 John 3:16. But fourth, godly concern is focused on today instead of tomorrow. Immediately after calling his disciples to seek first the kingdom of God, Jesus sums up his entire teaching on the subject by telling them, "Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." Self-focused anxiety is obsessed with the unknown future, but godly concern has the peace and security that allows us to take each day a day at a time. Now, sometimes the responsibilities of today may include preparing appropriately for tomorrow, but godly concern only occupies itself with the preparations that you can control. And it trusts God with the plethora of unknown variables that tomorrow might bring, even when the appropriate use of time today is to prepare wisely for what is ahead tomorrow. And fifth, ultimately, godly concern is experienced with a confident trust in God's goodness and control. I've talked about this a little bit already, but we need to focus on it. You see, it's not just what you're concerned about that makes the concern a reflection of God's concern. It's also how you're concerned about it. Godly concern always keeps in mind the reality that everything we are appropriately concerned about are the things that God is concerned about too. And He knows more, understands more, and is in far greater control over the things that we're concerned about than we will ever be. As we minister to and counsel those around us, we ought to interpret this kind of godly concern as what it is. It's faithfulness. Godly concern isn't sin, and it's not doubt. It's the natural response of a God-centered heart to the realities and potentialities of life in a fallen world. God has a deep concern for his creation, and our godly concern echoes the love and the care that he has as well. And we ought to respond to this kind of godly concern in the lives of those around us with affirmation. Godly concern shouldn't be corrected. It should be encouraged. And we should call those who express godly concern to trust that God shares their concern. And he alone has the eternal wisdom and power to turn that concern into loving action. Godly concern leads us to prayer, and it leads us to confident trust.